Welcome to a Halloween edition of the Stat Connect. I'm your host, Donatello, and I'm here with Dustin and Matt. We are going to have some fun. We are going to try to talk as little as possible about Oregon. I think we can all agree. The less said about Oregon, the better. But we're here to kind of turn the page and talk about Utah ASU and what the stats say. I mean, I don't think we can 100% just pretend that didn't happen as much as we might all like to. I think that we need to talk about a little bit. Matt, do you want to start? Like what?
Oh, I don't know if I want to. It felt like Halloween already began last
Right?
Saturday.
Haunted.
It was haunting. I've taken a ton of heat on Twitter already from Oregon fans. I did not see this coming. I really thought that Utah would be able to, they were at home, 27 straight wins, and they just, I don't know if it was just the injuries finally catching up, if it was the play calling. It just was ugly.
Yes.
And
I was in the press box for this game watching. When you're watching from up high, kind of seeing the whole field and that like all 22 sort of view, I agree that the play calling was unimaginative, maybe be the word for it. I mean, it felt like there were maybe 4 plays in the playbook and that was about it. But when you're watching the players that they're able to put on the field, those are the only plays you can call and have any confidence that they're gonna execute. I mean, But Bryson Barnes is a heck of a human being. You could not ask for a better young man, but you could ask for a better quarterback. He can't throw the ball accurately past about 8 yards. He's many feet over the head, many feet in front, many feet behind, over and over again. He struggles to make decisions. So, he waits for people to be open instead of throwing before they're open, doesn't make second and third reads, doesn't make first reads. Sometimes it's too quick to leave the pocket. I mean, the problems go on and on. He was Utah's third string quarterback for a reason. And we just, next guy up only works when there's a guy. And there isn't. And I think that's equally true, like not to lay it all on Barnes. I think it's equally true of the running back position. We're seeing the Utes try to run Jalen Glover out there, and Jalen Glover is clearly not a starting running back in the Pac-12. He runs vertical, stuff. He runs upright. He doesn't run to contact. He doesn't make the cut. He's got a lot of issues. I'm sure he's working on. I'm sure he'll be able to fix. The Utes have a great running backs coach and great core, but he's not ready for prime time. And Jaquinda Jackson is I'm hobbling around on crutches. The only reason he's out there.
Did you see
because there's
that?
nobody else.
It seemed to me
they're starting their safety at running back.
Yeah. As soon as you saw Jaquinda Jackson limping.
So I like. Yeah, there were no options. I don't know what you do besides call curl routes if those are the only routes that they can hit. It's frustrating though, because I feel like Utah's wide receiver core is really pretty talented. Vele's open all the time. He comes down with 50-50 balls a lot. The trouble is Barnes isn't throwing 50-50 balls. He's throwing 90-10s.
Bailey was open in the end zone twice.
It's not doable.
Yeah.
It's a remarkable testament. I'm going to be, when we talk about next game, talk about strength of schedule. It's a remarkable testament to this team's resiliency and their coaching that they have the record they do with the injuries that they've accumulated against one of the stronger schedules that anybody's had to go up against in the entire country. And man, you look down the rest of the schedule, and this is the last game that spoiler alert, I'm going to pick Utah to win this one. This is the last time I feel really confident that I'm going to go out there and pick the Utes to win.
They're facing a team this week that is in the kind of middle of the road defense. It's not the kind of defense that it's not an Oregon State. It's not a UCLA, but it's also not a Cal. This isn't a sub 100 defense. And so I don't anticipate that this is going to be a game where all of the Utah fans are going to be excited that, oh, look, the offense is improving. They're okay. It was just one bad game against Oregon. And we'll talk about it in a little bit. But luckily, ASU's offense is terrible. And Utah's defense is better than they looked, quite good, actually. So I anticipate this is a fairly comfortable win. It's not a win that's going to make the Utah fans go, oh, everything's fixed.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. We have so I'm all about the bell curve, right? You know, when we pull up my thing later, it's a bell curve. And what that means is fundamentally bad things happen rarely and good things happen rarely, but they are going to happen. You're going to have a bad day. You're going to have a good day. And when you average it all out, most of the time, you're going to be somewhere in that fat part of the middle of the bell curve. And where fans get themselves in trouble is when the good thing happens and they start to say, well, that thing that just happened, that's the new middle of the bell curve. That's what that means. And you need to be alive to the sort of reality that a bad quarterback can have a great game, especially against a bad defense, right? Yeah. That a great defense can let up a bunch of long pass plays that they otherwise wouldn't, especially against a good offense. And what you need to do is always go back to the average, always go back and say, okay, if we're looking at everything, what do we have here? I've been closing out my article last week when I was writing. I said, I've got this many games with Bryson Barnes at quarterback, and he has really struggled for 3 of them. I'm anticipating that he's really going to struggle with this defense and that they're gonna lose. And so it is a good thing if Utah fans are able to watch a game that Utah wins, even Utah wins by 20 points, by 25 points, and say maybe they're not actually, gonna win the world here, and just sort of stay calibrated, keep your expectations sensible. Utah's a good team. Utah's a team that's going to be fun to root for. I think you can expect every game remaining on the schedule, including the bowl game, to be really entertaining. But they're not the championship caliber team that they were the last.
I think we lost Joe for a second there. So, okay. So
I think Utah actually might be that championship caliber team if we had everybody.
Sure, but
Utah had everybody.
You don't. Sometimes you're mashing it out there. Yeah. That's how it goes. And so sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you get unlucky. And Utah got unlucky this season when it came to injuries. Got unlucky 2 Rose Bowls in a row. Not really having the opportunity to compete with a full team. So it's a frustrating way to sort of close out an era where Utah fans were seeing the very best teams that they'd ever put on the field by a pretty healthy margin. I'd take Utah these last couple of years when they were at their peak and fully healthy. I'd take them to beat 2004, 2008 Utah football teams. They were really, really good. And they didn't kind of get all the trophies and all the laurels that you want to see. And it's not going to happen this year. And that's it stings a little bit, but just try to calibrate expectations and have fun watching these games, because they're playing their hearts out. That's for sure out there. And I'm, for the most part, last week, not fun, but for the most part, I've had a lot of fun, watching this team play and keeping games competitive, even when they're playing against teams that have a lot more tools and a lot more weapons than they do.
And Utah collected a good amount of hardware that Utah fans from 20 years ago would never have imagined either.
Would blow your mind.
Right, back-to-back Pac-12 championships.
Utah win back-to-back Pac-12 titles, wallop USC in Oregon, and be disappointed about
Go to 4, I'll put it in air quotes here, 4 straight Pac-12 championship games.
Right.
And win 2 of them.
Right.
Yeah.
But speaking of entertaining, I think we all expect an entertaining game coming up here this week. Dustin, what are you thinking? Where do you have this game going?
I think this will be a bit more of a classic Utah kind of slugfest. I We were talking before we started. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this is a shutout. The best defense ASU has faced so far is Fresno State in the 40s. Utah's a top 20 defense. ASU is not going to be able to move the ball. They can't run.
That's just very optimistic. So I'm going to turn to our resident optimist, Matt. Are you picking them?
Matt, you picking a shutout?
I don't think it'll be a shutout. No, I don't. I think that Arizona State, their defense will probably give their offense some opportunities to put up some points. I think, the Arizona State's turnover margin is terrible. I think it's 125th in the nation. They've only gotten 2 interceptions and I think 3 fumble recoveries the whole season. So, but they put it on a lot of pressure. I think I saw they had 21 sacks on the year already. They've got 2 really good defensive ends that I think are going to cause some problems for Barnes. Barnes struggles with that pressure. And so I think I could see Barnes maybe fumbling or throwing an interception as he kind of tends to do when he gets a lot of pressure. And so I think by that happening, it'll put Arizona State in a good situation to be able to score. So, but other than that, I agree with you. I think the Arizona State's offense is really going to struggle. That offensive line is just, they've really had to deal with the injury bug too. I mean, their quarterback situation, they thought they were good by bringing in the Notre Dame transfer, Drew Pine. They had a really good true freshman, Rashada. Those guys are both injured. So they're kind of in that same situation as Utah. They've got their third string guy that they didn't necessarily want as their starter. He's been there for a long time, just like Barnes has. And I think, he's going to struggle. Utah's going to be able to get a lot of pressure against that O-line. So, yeah, I give them 6-7 points. I see this as being something like a 24-6 or 7 kind of score.
Not about what you're going to pick. You said, Dustin, were you saying you're not going to pick the shutout? Not quite.
I'm not going to pick a shutout because you can't really expect a shutout against, anyone. So I'm not going to pick a shutout. But, 20-6, 21-6 feels about right.
I want to see who's healthy in this game. I mean, as soon as Jaquin Jackson went out and was not clearly healthy, that's really, to me, kind of that linchpin. It seems like Jackson's the linchpin. You look at the games where Jackson's doing well and healthy, things just flow better for that Utah offense. And so if Jackson's hobbled, if Vaki's hobbled, I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, it seemed encouraging at the end of the first half against Oregon, where they finally opened up the passing game and Barnes was hitting a bunch of guys. They moved down the field. And then for some reason, they come back in the second half and just don't go back to it. And so I'm hoping to see them kind of try that out a little bit. The linebackers for Arizona State are really young, really inexperienced. Take on that intermediate passing game. See what they can do.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll see Jackson or Vaki on offense. I think Vaki probably still plays some defense, but I won't be surprised if we don't see a lot of them this week. It's going to be one of those games where scoring's at a premium, and I just think Utah's going to get a couple of more than ASU does.
If Utah is not playing Jaquindon Jackson or Sione Vaki at running back, Kyle Whittingham is headed over to the Union Building to thumbtack tryouts to the wall, and we're gonna have the golf team rolled out there. There's just not a lot of choices left for the Utes. I agree. I think Vaki's getting a little bit overused and is starting to get dinged up as a result. You got to pick. It's just a reality of football at this level. You have to pick one side or the other of the ball. They can't be on the field for every snap.
I will say this, though. The Utes used Deion Stanley, the freshman, the speedy freshman. Yep. They used him on that trick play on the kick return, and he did great on that kick return.
I expect we'll see some of those true freshmen this week.
That's what
Randall's only played 2 games. Stanley's only played that one. So
yeah.
ASU has faced, just straight up terrible defenses. The defenses are garbage from top to bottom. Like I said, their best defense they faced is Fresno, who shut them out, and Fresno's 41st. Then Oklahoma State is 105th. Colorado, let's give props to Colorado. They're no longer dead last. They're now 129th.
Nice work.
They're
They
now
got a
100.
tackle somewhere in there.
They-
Yeah,
they-
that's Dustin. That's what I see too. I see this as a really fascinating study in sort of strength of schedule as a concept. Because if you look at these teams' core numbers, the sort of rate numbers, they're actually pretty close. Utah is, and from a offense perspective, Utah and Arizona State are about the same in yards per carry. Utah a little bit better than Arizona State, but not much. About the same in yards per attempt. Utah's actually a little bit worse than 93rd versus 99. So both pretty bad offenses, both near the bottom in terms of sacks and tackles for a loss allowed, showing struggling offensive lines. Not a lot of explosiveness for either of these teams. Arizona State is close to dead last in long rush plays. The one area that they're actually good at is long pass plays. That's one of the reasons why I'm really hesitant to pick a shutout for this game, just because that's the one thing Arizona State's good at. It's probably if you were to pick a weakness for Utah's defense, it would be those long pass plays. And so it's pretty easy to imagine Arizona State breaking loose once or twice and either getting right to the goal line or getting through and getting into the end zone and scoring 3, 6, 9, 10 points somewhere in that range. And then on the other side of the ball, you really see the same kind of thing where they're within 5 or 10 places of each other in every key statistical metric. The difference is Utah's strength of schedule is 15th overall per FPI, whereas Arizona State's strength of schedule is 63rd. And there's just a huge gap in the kinds of teams that they've played while Utah's been brawling with, Oregon State. Arizona State's playing Cal, and it's just a very, very different schedule, and the teams are very far apart. Despite looking at their stats, they seem like they're pretty close. And of course, the records are basically the inverse of each other. Arizona State hasn't won a game in a long time, but ultimately, when
Arizona State just won a game,
and
hadn't won one before that.
Yeah, and I was sort of that's true, but a lot of else, a lot of else. Sheet. But when I pull my numbers up and I kind of look at the chart, I see a game that Utah should win just about every time, about 9 out of 10 of the scenarios and simulations. Utah comes away with a W. I see them as odds-on favorite to beat the line. The line's 11. And man, I really like Utah to beat that line. My model hasn't beaten the line 61% of the time, which is as high as it gets. If you see something over 60% in this, that's a betting line. It's a value line for sure. So it's a lot of value there if people are betting. But ultimately, I just see a game that Utah's going to have in hand from the very beginning. I don't think they need to throw any long pass plays. I don't think they need a good running back. I think they need to just put their heads down and trust their defense, and they'll wind up with enough short fields and enough field goals. I don't think they're going to score a ton of points here, but I do think they're going to get theirs. I got Utah winning this one 26-10. A really comfortable game, and I don't think that touchdown happens till the fourth quarter when they're up 2-3 touchdowns, a little bit more, and start to loosen up that secondary a little bit, which is just how the games always tend to go. And we'll see Arizona State claw back a little bit, but this is going to be a nice casual game where Utah fans can enjoy their tailgate and have a good time, and I think be really entertained and wash that taste out of their mouth, that Oregon matchup, which was rough.
Well, we're all picking them to win and win pretty comfortably. The fact that Dustin brought up makes me just a little nervous. How they just beat Washington State by double digits, and they did it. They put up a decent amount of points. I know Washington State's defense isn't good at all, but
terrible.
It still makes me nervous. Makes me a little nervous.
Like I said, every defense they faced is terrible.
The thing to remember is it's that curve, right? And 90% is not 100%.
That's a good
big
point.
Difference between, and my model will sometimes spit out 999, triple nines. It says I didn't have a game that the other team won, but anything is possible, and Utah's going to win this every time. That's not the case here. There's a 1 in 10 chance that's flip a coin 3 times, and about as often as that comes up 3 heads. That's how often Utah loses this game. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, and Utah fans should be ready for a battle. I think it's not likely. I think the most likely result is a pretty comfortable Utah win, but it's possible. It's possible that the season really starts to go off the rails here this week, and I think Utah fans are all hoping it won't.
I mean,
Washington State gave up almost 250 yards on the ground. There is no
Utah's
version of this Utah defense that does that.
That's true.
Never going to happen. I mean, Barton is great, and he's missed. No one's rushing for 250 on Utah at home.
I like their Scattaboo, the running back they have is kind of my favorite player on that team. Really dynamic, but that's all they've got.
That's the weapon. That's the sole weapon on the team, and Utah will have a defense dialed up with 2 or 3 guys responsible for him by the time he gets to the backfield, and it's just not going to be a threat.
And as you know, as much criticism as he has justifiably faced, I'd take our third string quarterback over theirs. He's thrown 1 touchdown and 3 picks. Yards per attempt are about 6.5. You know, he also doesn't throw a deep. Almost 70% of his passes are less than 10 yards. It's just
very similar look from the quarterback. Really limited in terms of what they can do. The offensive coordinator knows those limitations and makes the best out of the tools they have in the toolbox. And I agree. You know, if you're picking one of those guys, I pick Barnes too. He's made some great plays and has a lot of talent. Like has a lot of tools there. It just hasn't been able to kind of put it together.
Plus, his last name doesn't sound French.
Right? This is an American game.
I don't know how to pronounce ASU's quarterback's name, but I suspect it's Bourget.
Oh, my goodness. Well, all right.
I hope they find another weapon. I hope that they do give some of these guys chances like Randall and Stanley and determine, hey, maybe they have somebody else like Vaki so they don't have to use Vaki so much on both sides. But sounds like a good game.
Yep, should be a good game. Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. It's Halloween. I got to get with my kids, so I'm gonna go ahead.
Yeah, I love that.
Back on here. I wish you all an absolutely radical Halloween and Saturday. No, come back. Where are we? There we are.
It can't tell
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, guys.